Hi everyone, I am Dr. Penny Trayner. I am a paediatric clinical neuropsychologist. I work in Manchester in brain injury rehabilitation in the community. I am also the founder and I guess developer of Goal Manager, which is a goal management software for rehabilitation. I was also a winner of the Mike Barnes Award for Innovation in 2019. And I had the honour of being able to mentor the next winner of the award for innovation in 2020, who's with us today. I'll let you introduce yourself, Ellis.
Hi, I'm Ellis Parry, engineer and CEO of NewMind, and we're developing an app called Alfred, which is to help brain injury survivors and their family members work towards independence. And I was, very fortunate enough to win the 2020 Mike Barnes Award. And Penny has been mentoring me, and we've kind of been sharing our successes and difficulties.
Great. So shall we start kind of at the start and talk a little bit about Alfred? And could you tell us a little bit about what it is and who it's for and how you came about designing it?
Yeah, so Alfred was really born out of a personal experience. So I've got an identical twin brother who suffered a brain injury back in 2012. And he went to a couple inpatient, kind of the typical pathway that a lot of people go through. He went to Adam Brooks, he was lucky enough to go to Learn, which is a great centre, and then on to Fen House. And at this point, as family members, we were trying to look how we can try and contribute towards his recovery in any way possible. And at that stage, early after an injury is quite difficult, and really we don't really know what we should be doing. And the level of care he got was very variable at the different places he went to. And we were always kind of pushing for him to go to a centre called the Oliver Zangwill Centre, which is a great centre. And after 2 years after his injury, he was lucky enough to go there. And whilst he was there, we really kind of experienced a more kind of holistic neuro rehabilitation experience where the family was more involved. And Luke was the team there was a little bit more forward thinking, I think, than some of the other places he went to. But they were using different kind of technology and different techniques, and we really bought onto it as a family. And in particular, there was one device he was using was called NeuroPage, which it was a paging device, and I could see the potential of it. It would kind of prompt Luke to conduct some of the strategies and the exercises he was learning at the center. But whilst he was at home, and if someone's got significant memory problems or executive functioning, it's a really important process. And as an engineer, I could see this being used, and just naturally was thinking this really could be done on a smartphone. And the kind of technology that brings opens up a lot of other opportunities. So that kind of sat in my mind for a while, and met Andrew there, and we would kind of discuss several ideas on this topic. And then I kind of like just parked it because I had a degree and a PhD to finish, and I kind of naively thought I'd try and keep this going on in the background. Didn't happen at all. And then it took until the very last year of my university when me and a couple of friends got together, and we decided to really kind of create the company and really like refine our vision and our product, and just go for it really. And the UKABIF award was one of the first kind of I guess like validation steps that we had, and recognition, where we had gone from, we had like a rough prototype, and then we had coded up a working MVP, and I had a few users, and UKABIF was one of that. It was an amazing award for us to win because it was in a community that really knew what they're talking about. They understood the problem we were trying to solve, and it was just a great kind of tip of the hat, and saying that what we were doing was valuable. So it was really good timing for us, and really, really rewarding.
It's great. I mean, that's an amazing story. And I'd love to hear more about how it's helped your brother and sort of shaped his recovery. And I know you've been really busy refining it and making it so it's more applicable beyond just Luke's recovery, but to a wider range of people. And I think that's what you're working on at the moment, isn't it? About upscaling and being able to distribute wider. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where things are up to at the moment with that?
Yeah, so Luke was kind of like the guinea pig, if you like, at first, and kind of like the QA guy, the quality assurance guy who had to go through Luke before it go anywhere else. But um, me and my co-founder, who his name's Rufus, he's very into kind of user-centered design. So although we had like a broad idea of the features that we wanted to implement, we always wanted it to come from a user need or to be developed in alongside a user. And I think for brain injury that's particularly important because the accessibility issues and the there is such a range of problems that an individual can have. You really need to kind of identify the most important ones that you can solve realistically with the technology. So we tried to always have it coming from a user need, and Luke was the first. And then we got a few others from a charity that he's involved with called the Silver Lining, which is an amazing charity. Um, and it's kind of is geared at that position where you've they've done their neuro rehabilitation if they're lucky enough to have access to it, and the community rehabilitation programs they're in doesn't really exist. But they've kind of 5 years post injury, 5-10 years post injury, and they kind of know a little bit. They're like uh, it's a community of like kind of older guiding survivors, and then you get some younger
Like a
people
peer
coming through.
mentorship type model. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
a mentorship. And they have all this knowledge to share, and it's a community where people come in, and if you're like a year or two post injury, someone comes in, and then there's like there's the fireside chat, if you like, of
Yeah.
this is what worked for me, this is what not, and just kind of sharing knowledge is really useful. And for us, that was kind of targeted a little bit where we wanted Alfred to be positioned. There's a little bit of that transition from support to no support, which I think is really lacking in the system. So we got a few more users on there. And the way that we've been trying to design it is we're not we take on a kind of batch of users every few weeks, and then we iterate our features kind of in close contact with those users, and then kind of take more on. So yeah, we're up to about 90 users now, and yeah, it's now getting a bit interesting because we're seeing so many different points of view. But
I guess you've got a kind of a live, active focus group there, so it's
yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
excellent.
And it's great. I mean, that we're getting so many kind of ideas and stuff coming through that now it's a matter of choosing which ones we're gonna focus on.
Yeah. It sounds like a real philosophy behind it is that idea of enabling people to be able to support themselves. And it sounds like you're talking about something that will bridge that gap between being very dependent on services, or not having those services that you need, to actually being able to be out in the community, to be able to function in your own life as best as you can, but with the family member input, which is the bit I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about how the family members now feed into Alfred, and how it becomes a bit of a conduit of their support as well.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think the main kind of problem, or one of the major issues is that the neuro rehabilitation window is often 10 to 12 weeks or so. I don't know, varying, but around that long. Whereas the recovery window for most individuals is years to possibly lifelong. So there's a huge difference there. And the community kind of neuro rehab system, which was developed a little bit to kind of provide that long-term support, just really doesn't function properly, massively underfunded, really variable across. And there are kind of band-aid approaches of charities and stuff like this. But they don't, it's really just it's a small fix to a big problem. And we did some research into the proportion of care that is delivered by family members, and for 2 years post injury, 70% of the care is actually given by the family members.
Wow.
and so you look at that figure, and yeah, to me that makes kind of sense, because that's what happened with us. And although you'll have a carer, pardon me, you'll have a carer come in to do a few hours of work, but maybe a day or whatever, but often they're not trained. They're trained to deliver basic care, but not really kind of that level up. And family members they often very capable of delivering this kind of advanced care that might actually improve the long-term outcomes, because they're driven to do it. First of all, they understand the person so well, they're there all the time. And a lot of neuro rehabilitation is encouraging behavior change, and family members are very capable of doing that if they're given the tools and they're given the knowledge and they're kind of invited on the journey. And we're trying to do that through, so we try and kind of break everything to a simple process on Alfred. So the neuro rehabilitation that's currently on is delivered via a prompt, with some kind of information, and then it's like an actionable thing to do. Um, and we send the prompts to the survivors. We also send different ones to the loved ones, and it might be like a nugget of psychoeducation coupled with something that they can do with their loved one. And it's trying to encourage them to kind of get on board with their recovery. And yeah, to be honest, we're still investigating, how we can do it to the best of our ability, but we think it's a real untapped resource, the family member in particular. And we've had some quite interesting data from, so therapies that are delivered on Alfred, which is in this prompt format, but ones that are given by a family member, are, I think it's 15% more likely to be completed than one that's given by, automatically by Alfred or by a clinician. So, we haven't investigated why that is, but you think, the subtle way it could be worded or whatever
How
is,
it's bespoke, it's really, yeah, tailored exactly to that
yeah,
individual.
yeah, exactly. And, we've been wondering whether to go down kind of like an a machine learning approach of trying to personalize these therapies, or and then we kind of realize that the family member is like, it's like a human intelligent thing that's actually
Right
you
there
know
and ready to be used. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and we don't have to write any complicated algorithms to use it. So yeah.
And I like that idea, like you say, that they want to be helpful and just need some support and perhaps how to deliver it. Because people have to go to work, they have to go and get on with their lives, and they can't always be at home,
Mm,
or with the individual all the time. And my understanding of how Alfred works is, if I was the caregiver or relative of a survivor, I could be at work, and set it up so I sent prompts at particular times of day, knowing that my relative has things that they need to do and perhaps they struggle to do them at those times. Can really follow them up. And I believe you can send images and other things that can be useful
mm,
just to really bolster that message. I mean, I think that's fantastic and
mm,
not something that I have ever seen. I'm a pediatric neuropsychologist and always on the lookout for technology, because I work with young people who are very much engaged with technology. And also because, as you say, we're very thin on the ground. There are not many
mm.
of us, and we're constantly always trying to find ways to enable people to get as much rehab as they can. And I think this is a
Mm,
real fantastic way. Um,
thank you.
and it really makes the family member part of the team. So we talk about this idea of collaborative working and everyone being on the team. And this, to me, feels like it really brings everyone together. Everyone's working from the same base. So yeah, it's
That's
great.
that's the plan. That's the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
I was very impressed. So, and like I say, we were pleased to see that when you came and you presented the award, just how much programming has gone into this and how much thought has gone into this. And I know undoubtedly your expertise and background as an engineer has been really helpful towards that. But it sounds like your brothers made a really positive contribution in both having this project to work on together,
Mm.
which probably is rehab for him in itself and has been a great activity.
No, no, definitely. So Rufus as well, the my co-founder, he's the real kind of the software wizard. I kind of come in the code and kind of break it a little bit, and that's kind of
Put that
my kind.
together.
Yeah. But with Luke working on New Mind has been huge, really, really huge for him. It's kind of difficult to um really put a significance on that, because I think it touches on this idea of having a purpose, which I think is so important in a recovery journey. Because if there are so many things that an individual, could do or should do, or some days they want to, some days they don't, that can really push them along. But ultimately, like it needs to be a push, it needs to be a drive, and like they need to want it.
Ellis, when we were looking at New Mind, when you were talking about it when we were judging the award, the thing I think I was most impressed by was how it really integrates everyone, and everyone's part of the team with New Mind. You've all developed it together, and I wondered, for your brother, what that's meant for him, really, because I guess even just working on this project with you has probably been rehabilitation in itself for him.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to put a significance on how much that has really helped him along. And I think it touches on this idea which is really, really important in rehabilitation, which is having a purpose, having something to work towards. And I think it feeds into so many different components of neuro rehabilitation, which is ultimately a very tough, difficult journey that these people have to go on, and it requires a lot of awareness and sacrifice and behavior change. And having a purpose can just feed into all these different areas, so much, and just improve the happiness. After a brain injury, sorry. One of the major problems that I've seen observed is people feeling like their old self is gone, and now there's this new person who can't do this, can't do what they used to do, and da da da. And it's not, you're almost battling like the mental issues aren't caused by the injury. It's like it's almost psychological, almost depression and stuff. And having a purpose that really gets them up in the morning, and it can just be huge. And Luke's been blessed for he has his athletics, which has been going really, really well. That's always been a thing for him, and now it's like the athletics and Alfred, and it's just been fantastic for him.
It's wonderful, really wonderful. And so I thought, just for the sake of everyone kind of watching this, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your next steps with it. Like, how can they get hold of it if they want to be part of the user group, perhaps? I mean, where are you at with things, and how do we get involved? How do we get a hold of this?
Great. So it's currently in beta, so
Okay.
it is available on app and Play Store and the App Store. But we're kind of onboarding users individually, really. So we'd like to speak to them before they come on. But yeah, if there's anyone watching, if they sign up on our website www.newmind.co.uk, I'll get in contact with them, or they can download the app directly. The next steps are, so we've been very fortunate to be part of these accelerator programs, which is for kind of tech that are trying to address meaningful problems. It's part of Oxford Uni Elevate program, and it's like a kind of a structured course of like giving you guidance on basically how to run a company, which is something that we kind of thought of secondary after, like, you want to make a tool, you want to kind of like try and do something that helps in this area, and then really you've got to run a kind of successful company around that. Otherwise, you can make a little tool, but I think there's actually a big problem in healthcare in general, and you can make a great little app or software package to address a little not a little problem, but a specific problem. But I think there needs to be it needs to be of a certain quality, and both for all the different users, because we're so used to having high quality applications now for free that even a user with a brain injury who might really get a lot of detail, if they don't like the look of it, they don't like the feel of it, they're just not going to use it. So health applications need to be of a high quality, in my opinion.
You're right, and they need to fit some of the consistency that we find with other applications. So, with my
Definitely.
software goal manager, we're now in the second iteration of it, and it now looks probably much more recognizable to a lot of people in terms of how most websites look, how most things interface now. We tend to have trends, and we tend to get really used to knowing where we find information, how to get into things, how to close things, and it's important we're consistent with that because that will make it much more accessible for people ultimately further down the line when it's something they're familiar with. They can open it up and they can easily work with that. So I think you're absolutely right that
Mm.
that part of the problem is it takes a lot of development and it takes a lot
Mm.
of time to get it looking right and working well.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we're competing against, the Googles and the Facebooks that have spent billions of pounds on the look and feel of these apps. I guess we can like try and pinch what we can from their designs, but yeah, it's so that, and in order to do that for us, we need some funding, and we need to run a tight ship, and um, that's kind of the what we're doing on the business side. Managed to raise some funding to really kind of take this further. Um, and then I guess we're looking the neuro rehab. Well, healthcare in general is a minefield, but neuro rehabilitation in particular it's so difficult to we have so many users. You've got the family member, you've got the brain injury survivor, you've got a clinician, you've possibly got a case manager, and for us, it's like we want to figure out which is the best kind of first user to really go for, where's gonna add the most value. These are challenges that looking forward to tackling
yeah,
in the near future.
that's a really helpful point to raise because I think that reflects my own experience of who's ultimately your end user.
Mm,
Might not be the person who ends up engaging or purchasing that product,
mm,
or the
mm,
person that So, for example, with my goal setting software,
mm,
ultimately the benefit is to the clients, to the brain injury survivors, but they would be unlikely to be someone searching out software to set goals to organize their own multidisciplinary team. That would be a structural,
mm,
administrative thing. There would probably be a case manager or a clinician on the team might be looking towards. But
mm, mm,
ultimately, it's of the greater benefit to the client. And if they knew it was going to benefit them, they might be able to be empowered to sort of reach out to
mm,
some of these things. So, yeah, it's interesting kind of just time really of thinking how do we get to talk to the people that need
mm.
our help.
Yeah, no, I completely, feel your pain there. It's, you've got a different end user, different economic buyer, possibly three different people who could benefit from it. So,
Yeah.
it's a difficult challenge, I think, but one we both need to get right, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that note, actually, perhaps we could just talk a little bit about just the general process, really, of working in technology within this industry. Do you have any top tips for anyone coming through? It's
Mm,
your product came very much organically through an experience, and also it coincided with your special interests and where you were at in life, and having your business partner who obviously had the same interest in and able to bring those together. I've always found the same with my product. It evolved organically from my service, from a need from my service, and I personally feel it fits better that way rather than us trying to sort of shoehorn what people need into existing things.
mm,
It's far better to grow
mm, mm.
alongside what people need. But yeah, it would just be useful to hear your thoughts and your experiences on that.
I think you've got to start with really a complete focus on the user who's going to benefit from it. And maybe, we just talked about having different types of users and stuff. I think if you're first starting out, you've got to throw that away and just focus on one, because you haven't got a lot of time. And if it just be a couple of you you just got to really drill down. I think both of us, that focus came from our experiences, and we could see those problem. But if you're not directly involved, you've really got to go and take your user research to the kind of go ridiculous levels. Really put yourself into the shoes of that user. What is it that they really need? What are the biggest challenges? And then I think try and take, if you're working in innovation, you often think that you've got to make a complicated tool. I think it's quite the opposite. If you've got these needs that are really well defined, try and think of the most simple solution that you can do to make those less bad, you know. Um, and that was something that took us a very long time. We had all these ideas of different directions that we could go, and uh, we had to kind of pull it back to something simple. And there's kind of a couple of reasons for that. You need to be able to share that value with someone else, and if you've got all these kind of complex features that you want to do, it just gets lost. And also, if you're just starting out, you just need something simple because you will only be yourself for a small team. So just grab something simple. And maybe the final advice I'd probably give to myself would be to like kind of share. No, I don't want to say steal things, but like take things from other fields or other disciplines. Like we wanted to incentivize our users to complete these tasks better, and we could think of a bunch of different ways how we could do it, or we could look at, you know, some apps that do it really well,
Yeah.
the gamification, and I think you can save a lot of energy there. And um, maybe that possibly feeds into a little bit of the problems in our using technology in our field, is that it is just, I feel it's quite far behind. So the idea of a cognitive orthotic has been going around since the 1990s, and you had a palm held device, and you know, no computation power, no Bluetooth, basically no internet. And there was a lot of excitement around there, and there was a few different solutions that were built up. And you know, now 2020, we've genuinely got the technology in our pockets to create a real cognitive orthotic device. And it just hasn't really, there hasn't really been many attempts recently. And I think one of the problems is just the healthcare landscape being so difficult to navigate. You've got high quality tools like Google Calendar and this stuff for free. Um, and neuro rehabilitation, just, you know, the neuro space just hasn't really been seen as kind of that in vogue area to innovate in. And it's, yeah, I think it's resulted in a real kind of we've kind of shortchanged these patients as a result.
I agree with that. I think we're. I also come from a family of engineers who I think are frankly just baffled that we still do things in such a, you know, a paper-based and very simplistic way. You know, when actually the technology is there, and it just takes someone to think about how do we cross-pollinate across disciplines,
mm,
you know, and bring in some of those ideas that are working really well in other areas, but actually can be applied to human beings and actually make a
mm,
difference to someone's life, not
mm,
just make a company more profitable or in some of the other applications of these things.
mm,
This is a
mm,
chance that we can use that technology to really change people's lives. So you're right, it's difficult and challenging and hard to know the way through, really.
mm, mm,
I guess just to round things up, could you maybe just tell us a few things about how that might have helped or how that might have given you a little step up in the right direction
mm,
on this this very challenging and difficult and nebulous path?
mm. So as I said, the kind of like the validation that the award brought was huge for us personally. And then also the network. So the UKABIF has got such a good reputation in this quite niche like little ecosystem of neurorehabilitation. Everyone kind of knows or is aware of everyone else. So that was huge for us as a little startup who really we didn't have we had no we had like a little network, but winning that award just allowed us to, people in the know kind of knew of us, or you know, it just gave us that 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 accreditation. And then the opportunity to work with NIHR BrainMic, who we kind of had some dealings with before, but unfortunately with COVID, it's been like a little bit difficult to kind of get things going properly. But you know, really looking forward to working even more with these guys. And yeah, I mean, if anyone else, uh, I would just highly recommend going applying to the UKABIF Mike Barnes Award. It's very rare that you have an opportunity to share what your idea is or what you've been making with such a group of, you know, experienced and caring individuals in this field. So yeah, I just highly recommend it.
That's great. I'm really pleased that's been your experience, and really pleased to be able to support you with it for as long as we can. So yeah.
And thank you, Penny, as well, because your help has been invaluable.
You're most welcome, Ellis. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you evolve, seeing Alfred grow, seeing New Mind grow. I'm sure you've got a whole bank of other apps and things that you're now thinking of. Now you've started with one, it sort of opens up the door to many others. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how you guys grow over the years. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.